Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Zisizwe Ngubane, and I'm presenting this work on behalf of myself, Mr. Shanley Hay, and Jacob Adediji. All three of us are from the Civil Engineering Department in Midlands. The work that we've done is assessing the impact of undergraduate research on engineering student graduate attributes development. The interest in this work came from the fact that the Engineering Council of South Africa has prescribed a set of skills that an engineering graduate needs to have at the time that they graduate. And at the moment, we have 10 that we have in practice within the diploma. Now, the development and the assessment of these GAs, as we call them, has caused quite a stir with the students at the beginning. And so over the time, then we had to look at what was the issue. And the issue was basically time and workload, mostly, just to sum it up. But we've heard all sorts of cries from the students and also within the staff members, because this time and workload was the issue on both sides. Now, we then, as a department, then we kept going back to the drawing board to see what would work better for the student and also for the lecturers. And part of it has been to divide the work such that in the first year, we are developing these graduate attributes. And then in the last year, which is the second year, we are then assessing them. And that way, the work is a bit spread out. And also, it's helping the students to understand the graduate attributes better before they are assessed. So we then introduced research. It's not across all the subjects. However, most of the subjects will have it in some form. And so we are then doing this work to assess whether there is any positive impact or even negative, so that we have an understanding of where our students are at the moment. So basically, the tools we used here, we used a questionnaire, which was disseminated via MS Forms. And this is because of course, the pandemic. So it was easier to do it that way. It has its shortcomings, which I will discuss just now. Basically, in the form, we looked at three sections. We had the demographics section, and then we had the relationship between undergraduate research and the graduate attributes. In this one, it wasn't more straightforward, but it was just more of an understanding, or trying to find an understanding of whether the student really understands where the link is. And so these questions were either direct or indirect. So we had both kinds of the questions for the students. And then lastly, we had personal reflections from the student side now on undergraduate research and what it's done for them. So as I mentioned earlier, we looked at both year one and year two because of that divide between assessment and development. And to analyze the data, we use SPSS and MS Excel. So in terms of the demographics, we basically had more male students respond than the female. However, I need to highlight that we do have more male students in any case within our cohort than the female students. And in terms of age, I'm not going to really touch on that much. However, with the diploma levels, more S4 students gave responses. And in our view, this is because the S4 students now understand what it means to have an opinion, or what it means to have another person have an opinion on what you need to do. So remember, they've suffered through the program, and then they've got to understand things a bit better. Because of the pandemic, I think all of us who teach would actually attest to that it's difficult to get the students to do anything without an incentive. So if there's no punishment or no gain, the student doesn't feel the need to do it. And because you are not in front of them, there's no way of forcing them. So in terms of the turnout, it wasn't as well as we had hoped. However, I mean, it's the same across anything that is a survey. I think CPQA can tell you that in a class of 150, you get like 8 responses, and there's not much we can do about it because there's no incentive. And then when we looked at closely at the responses on undergraduate research, linking them with the graduate attributes, here again, there's a clear distinction between year one and year two. So if you look, for instance, at GA3, GA3 in the year one students, it's lower than the year two. GA3 is engineering design. In year one, we really just introduced the concept of design, and then in year two, they actually start doing the design themselves. So there's a better understanding if you compare the two. And interestingly, if we have a look at GA1, which is problem solving, both of the of the years actually seem to have an equal understanding, or in a combined view, so to say. But this is because these when they come in, when the students come in, we bombard them with problem solving, and this is where our research ideas came from as well. And that will be the same across the GAs. Now we also then also said, think about it, are the students seeing any relationship between the undergraduate research and the graduate attributes? And so our now hypothesis was that the two really are independent of each other. And if you look at on the table here, our chi-squared, so our chi-squared on the table here, calculated, uh, as opposed to the expected. In most GAs, so the Nile hypothesis was rejected, whereas in GA4, GA6, and GA8, it actually proved to be true. But I think overall we can say that there is a relationship, or the students are seeing that relationship between the two. Now, after doing all of this work and analyzing the data that we have, we then came up with what we call a proposed conceptual framework. Now, in this framework, we have the domain, which is the university, and this is where now we have the classroom, we have the laboratory as well. And then we have the community, where we now look at different stakeholders. We have practice, which will be assessment, and then the different outputs. So just in terms of the colors. Now, we have different phases just as well that we look at in terms of this. So the first phase is the appreciation phase. And in this phase, we have lecturers, we have technicians, we have university departments, different bodies, different, role players within the university. And then we have our industrial experts who come on board as the advisory board. And then we have the EXA, which is the Engineering Council, who of course guide what we do and with our students, and and the outputs that we get out of the work that we do. Now, I also want us to just focus a bit on what the domain has. So we have teamwork that we enforce through these GAs. We have professionalism. We have undergraduate participation in research, which is what we've now introduced. We have research mentorship, which is through the lecturers, through the industry aspects, and also through the technicians, where practicals are involved, and also other departments within the university, which I'll talk about just now. Now, we also had these issues with time constraints, workload on staff and students, and and now when we look at the collaboration phase, this is now where we introduce, or we assess, or we have this ground where we can assess GAs, and we can have that collaboration with the stakeholders as well. So between the stakeholders and the students. And we have a co-creation phase where now we get the students involved in now, being on the ground and solving the problems that we give them. And we have that back and forth interaction, because as you give the assessment, you also get feedback from the students. And should you find some good knowledge there that can be used further, now you then look at, where can this go? We will take it, for instance, if there's a really good business idea, then we take it to InnoBees, for further development. And we still get that feedback, because we still have that nurturing that we need to give the student. And of course, there are marks that come out of this, which of course is what we are all aiming at. But, other really good outputs are research, publications, which, this one will be the first one that comes out of it. Some really good business ideas. We have students who are now part of the InnoBees and have really good businesses that they are running. And some are really just, in the initiation phase, but we have that ongoing. Now, we now also look at that continuation phase, where now we have this research that will give birth to others, or this idea that will give birth to others. And so in terms of now how much workload there is, there's less, because remember we've divided it such that the first phase is development, the last phase is assessment, and that also helps to divide the load for the students. But we also still provide that environment where the student can also enjoy and learn more than just what we teach them in class through this. Now, basically, our results do show that the undergraduate research characteristics relate to extra-graduate attributes, and that the students' understanding and views improve from year 1 to year 2. And this is due to that continuous exposure. And undergraduate research can be used as a tool in developing and assessing the graduate attributes in engineering students. And that research experience, I mean, from the student views, they do say that it influences their plans moving forward. I mean, a small percentage is saying, well, they don't really care, they're not moved. But like a really good, about 70% of the students say they now really are motivated to move into into postgraduate studies. Thank you for your time, and that's a wrap from me.